What's going on, everyone? It's Nick, and before I go any further, for those who do enjoy coming to my live streams, only a few of you anyways, but I'm so sorry that I couldn't do it the last 2 days, and I'm not going to be able to do it anymore because I recently got a noise complaint. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but this is what I have to deal with when I live in a country where the walls are paper thin. But anyways, before we go any further, if you could please like the video, it only takes 1 second, really helps out with the YouTube algorithm. It would be so much appreciated. And also, if you could please subscribe. I cover basketball, baseball, and football on this channel. This is definitely the place for you. And I'm on the road to 500 subscribers. That's going to get me halfway towards monetization, so all help is much appreciated. Also, if you could please hit the notification bell, that'd be much appreciated as well, so you don't miss any of my future uploads. And hey, in other news, not related to basketball or sports, but finally, at last, I'm getting my first COVID vaccine shot in a couple of days. I'm so glad to finally see light at the end of the tunnel. But anyways, so let's get on with this video. You see the title, right? Injuries suck. Best wishes to Trae Young. Hopefully he can be back in game 5. But Giannis, yeah, not looking good all season, man. And in these playoffs especially. And I'm not here to make excuses for the Lakers. Yeah, I do think they would have been competing for a championship again if healthy. But LeBron's body language after AD went down. Yeah, everything I said about that in the video I made that's still getting views now and still getting comments now, I stand by that 100%. That kind of body language was unacceptable. But if the team was healthy, yes, I do think that this team would still be competing for a championship. But anyways, not even just that though. Jamal Murray with the torn ACL, the Miami Heat with all their injuries this year, and how they just couldn't get in a rhythm because of that and COVID problems. James Harden and Kyrie, well, super team karma, but still, we don't wish injuries on anyone. Kawhi with his knee injury right now. Mike Conley, also Joel Embiid playing through a torn meniscus. These guys have been dropping like flies, even with the medical advances that we have now. But you know, this is also Adam Silver's fault for rushing to get the new season started and condensing all those games together. It just wasn't a good idea. And here we are now dealing with all these injuries. Hopefully these guys not playing in the Olympics can get well rested before next season starts, now that they have a proper off season. 2 guys in the conference finals, Devin Booker and Chris Middleton, are already committed to Team USA. I hope they can stay healthy too. I'll be volunteering at the Olympics, by the way. I can't promise that I'll meet any of these guys, but if I do, I will be sure to post a picture with them on social media if they allow pictures. So yeah, again, definitely follow me and you'll get to see the pictures. I will follow you back. Links in the description to my social media. But yeah, injuries, like, they've always been part of sports, we know. But this year it feels like more than ever. And it sucks. But anyways, let's get on with NBA playoff talk now. Man, the Milwaukee Bucks are so bipolar. As I'm recording this, no injury diagnosis yet on Giannis. Although by the time I upload this video, or maybe while I'm doing a little bit of editing, this video is not going to be heavily edited, by the way. I don't really have time on my hands for that right now. But perhaps while I'm editing, the diagnosis could come out. And we're fearing that it could be an ACL injury, and again, it sucks. You hate to see that. But the Hawks did persevere without Trae Young, who's also injured. Will Trae Young play game 5? I don't know. But both team star players are injured. This is not good. If Giannis really tore his ACL though, I'm so sorry for him. So sorry for Bucks fans. And the look on Thanasis' face was just really hard to see. But you know, with the game itself, Lou Williams filled in very nicely for Trae Young with 21 points on 7 of 9. Where was that in the bubble last year? Bogdanovic, just 7 of 19 from the field, but 6 of 14 from 3. Kevin Huerter at 15, Cam Reddish and Danilo Gallinari gave the Hawks some good bench production as well. The Bucks, Giannis 14 points in 24 minutes, although he airballed 2 free throws. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I've ever seen Shaq or Dwight Howard as bad as they were at free throws, or Dwight Howard still is. I don't think I've ever seen them airball 2 in the same game. But if they have, yeah, you can correct me in the comment section. I don't even remember with Shaq, and I idolized Shaq growing up. And yeah, Giannis also shot 1 3 that missed terribly, and I would rather him shoot 0 threes because that's what the other teams want him to do, and he should know this by now, that teams want him to shoot the 3. But aside from that, I really do hope for the best for him with his knee injury. But good job by the Hawks crowd not taunting him. Nice to see that some fans have class. I'm looking at you Raptor fans that cheered when Kevin Durant tore his Achilles. Chris Middleton, he was a hero in game 3 but played horrible in game 4. Drew Holiday wasn't so good in game 4 either. But anyways, now on to the Western Conference Finals. Shout out to Paul George for keeping the Clippers alive in game 5. The Clippers do get to live to see another day. The fact that they went to Phoenix and stole game 5 when the Suns had a chance to close it out, and we get to see game 6 of the Western Conference Finals at the Staples Center. Paul George, 41 points and 13 rebounds. 13 legit rebounds, by the way, because if you watch my streams, you know how much I hate it that teams don't fight for rebounds anymore, and as soon as the shot goes up, you just get back on defense. Well, Paul George actually got legit rebounds, so gotta give him a shout out for that. Oh, and how about when he crossed up Chris Paul? That was nice. Oh, and Reggie Jackson with the poster on Jay Crowder. If Chris Paul really does blow this 3-1 lead, wow, way to carry the Clippers curse with you to Phoenix. This would definitely take a hit on his legacy for sure. Another hit actually, because he's already taken plenty of hits on his legacy in the playoffs. Chris Paul, you have to win by any means necessary. You have to. You don't have, I mean, you do have game 7 to close it out as well, but no. Close it out in game 6, you absolutely have to. If you don't, then your legacy is taking quite a big hit, man. You'd be probably a borderline top 10 point guard of all time. Like right now, I would say Chris Paul, yes, he's a top 10 point guard of all time, but not even close to top 5. Yeah, sorry, Gen Z bots. Chris Paul has elevated every team that he's played for, but you gotta get it done in the playoffs. And you did against Denver, but you gotta get it done in the conference finals. And not that long ago, I had someone tell me that Chris Paul is a top 2 point guard of all time, and that if he were on the Warriors, he would have those championships instead of Steph, or if the Lakers trade happened, he'd have 2 to 3 championships. How are you that stupid? First of all, stop with the hypotheticals. There's no way to know this for sure, okay? Secondly, my friend Wale, if you're watching this, I'm sure you remember, and I didn't need your help, but I appreciate it anyways. You put it beautifully how the Warriors' offense was predicated to the 3-ball, and Steph is the greatest shooter ever, which is why he was the greatest asset to the team besides KD in his short tenure there. Might I add to that Steph is also someone who also moves so well without the ball, an aspect of basketball that isn't looked at enough because there are no box score stats to show for that. Chris Paul, while yes, he is a good shooter, he's not God from 3 like Steph is. And with the hypotheticals, like, yeah, you just don't know. And we know Chris Paul's injury history. If he did go to the Lakers, well, an injury could have ruined it all. And even if Chris Paul did go to the Lakers and Kobe didn't have to carry the Lakers to the playoffs in 2013, he still could have torn his Achilles at some point. We just don't know. So stop with the hypotheticals. But anyways, so Chris Paul's history with choking. 2008, blew a 2-0 lead to the Spurs. Yeah, the Hornets were a young team, but Chris Paul was second in MVP voting to Kobe that year, so yes, he has to be held accountable. And that third quarter is where he lost Game 7. 2009, the team took a step back because of injuries and Peja Stojakovic was beginning to decline. Yes, the Nuggets were expected to knock the Hornets out of the first round anyways, but that is no excuse to lose a game by 54 points. And in that game, Chris Paul scored 4 points on just 2 of 7 with 6 turnovers. The next game, Game 5, when the Hornets lost the series. They lost by 21 and Chris Paul wasn't a whole lot better at all in that game. 2010, he was hurt. 2011, first round exit. Now let's go on to Lob City. Yes, the first year of that was a success. And yes, Chris Paul changed the culture of a perennial laughingstock, and his impact has lasted even after he got traded to Houston. They weren't an attractive free agent destination before, but they were able to bring in a Finals MVP. And Paul George was traded for a lot, but they brought a Finals MVP to come along with Paul George, something the Clippers never could have done before Lob City. So yes, Chris Paul deserves a ton of credit for that, but that still does not excuse him from multiple choke jobs. In 2012, okay, the Clippers weren't expected to beat the Spurs, but for Chris Paul to only average 12.8 points per game on 36.8% from the field, with 4.5 turnovers per game, and his team got swept, yes, his legacy does take a hit for that. 2013, lost to a lower seeded team in the first round and blew a 2-0 lead. I would say looking at the box scores, it doesn't look like 3 of those 4 losses were Chris Paul's fault. Chris Paul choked in Game 5 though, and as good as his box score stats looked for that game, yeah, fourth quarter, not good. Game 6 though, Matt Barnes scored 30 points and had 10 rebounds. Yeah, Matt Barnes. Okay, Blake did get hurt, and I didn't like Chris Paul's ejection at the end. I thought that was weak, but you still lost 4 straight to the Grizzlies, who are a lower seeded team, and you win that series. You face the Thunder in the next round without Russell Westbrook, and you should be able to beat them and go to the conference finals. 2014, Game 5 against OKC, turning the ball over twice in the final 17 seconds of the game. And we can even backtrack a little bit to Game 2, not even one shot attempt in the 4th quarter of that game. So Ben Simmons before Ben Simmons. Game 6, the closeout game, bad 3rd quarter, shot yourself out of the game. 14 4th quarter points, but 8 of them were when the game was pretty much out of reach. And also, by the way, when I say Ben Simmons before Ben Simmons, okay, of course Chris Paul is a much better player. Don't get it twisted there. 2015, we know, blew a 3-1 lead, and James Harden didn't even play Game 6. 2017, Blake hurt, awful squad, but you played pretty terrible in Game 7. So that's still on you, even though with Blake Griffin injured and having such a bad team, you probably shouldn't expect to win anyways, but yeah, Game 7, yeah, you played horrible. 2018, yeah, Chris Paul not playing Game 6 and 7 is a what if, and he bailed out James Harden in Game 5 and did all that he can with an injured hamstring, but no guarantee the Rockets win with Chris Paul though. And Chris Paul played awful in Game 3, which is a game that the Warriors blew out the Rockets in. 2019 against the Warriors. Okay, not a series you're supposed to win, but you weren't amazing in that series and you were particularly terrible in Game 5. Last year, 1st round exit, although you did take a team that was supposed to be a rebuilding team to the playoffs. Nice. This year, you had a great series against the Nuggets, and no one can take that away from you, even with Jamal Murray injured during the series. But in this series right now, against the Clippers, you have to get it done by any means necessary. Right now, I wouldn't even put Chris Paul over Gary Payton in the all-time ranks. Let's show some love to the glove, no pun intended. Gary Payton has at least gotten to the finals as the best player on his own team and locked up Michael Jordan in the finals. George Karl, why the hell did you wait until you were already down 3-0? Well, I mean, I actually do know why, because he wanted to preserve Gary Payton's energy for the offense, but yeah, that was just a dumb strategy. But is Chris Paul a top 10 point guard of all time? That I would say so, just absolutely not top 5. He's gonna need to win a championship this year if he's even going to have an argument for top 5 point guard of all time. If the Suns at least make it to the finals this year, then I might at least consider putting him over John Stockton. You could say Chris Paul is a greater all-time talent than Isaiah Thomas or John Stockton, but Isaiah Thomas and John Stockton contributed more to winning than Chris Paul ever did. Like, I'm sorry, you cannot be a top 5 player at your position if you've never even been to the finals. Want to know who my top 5 point guards of all time are? Okay, number 1 is Magic Johnson, far and away. No contest whatsoever. That's not debatable. And then I'd go Steph Curry, Isaiah Thomas, Jerry West, and Oscar Robertson. And if I want to extend this a little more, I think 6th would be Walt Clyde Frazier. And I know the Gen Z bots will hate me for this, but I think I'd even put Bob Cousy over Chris Paul. Yes, Bob Cousy came into the league before the shot clock era, but look up his highlights. You'll be amazed, especially with the dribbling rules that he had to play with in his day. You think guys back then couldn't do a wide crossover? Okay, look at me right here. Yeah, now imagine watching that and thinking that I'm a better ball handler than the guys in the old days. Of course those guys can do a wide crossover too, but back then, the way guys dribble now was a carry back then. When you have your hand on the side of the ball, it's like, I'm not going to bounce the ball here, so you had to have your hand on top of the ball when dribbling. You couldn't do... Yeah, like this would have been a carry, like if I'm bouncing the ball. Like I'm in the house right now, so I can't bounce it, but you know what I'm talking about? Imagine having to dribble just like this at game speed, because that's what the guys back then had to dribble like. And efficiency, yeah, well, the 50s were extremely inefficient, and the early days of the shot clock era were really fast paced. and Bob Cousy is a 6-time champion. And only 8 teams back then? Well, that made it harder to make the NBA. Of course, it's really hard to make it now, but imagine if 22 teams got eliminated and we put all the best players available on the remaining 8. Those teams would be stacked, wouldn't they? Although yes, more international talent exists now than ever before. I will give the modern game that. But anyways, about Game 5 though, once again props to Tyronn Lue. Already missing Kawhi and Ibaka. Then you lose Zubac, and Zubac has done a really good job on defense, even when extending out to the perimeter, and certainly way better than I've ever seen Rudy Gobert do so. Ty Lue continuing to prove me wrong. Am I ashamed of it? No, I know I wasn't the only one who looked down upon the hire at the time. Monty Williams has done a really good job for much of the season, but you have to put some blame on him for this as well. I don't think he played campaign enough. Like, I don't know where the sense of urgency was for the Suns going into Game 5. We should know by now how resilient this Clippers team is. Coming back from 2-0 against the Mavs and doing it against the Jazz, and even winning the last 2 games without Kawhi, and the first of those last 2 games in Utah, you should know by now. The Clippers are a resilient bunch, and whatever they do now, it shouldn't surprise you anymore. Even if the Clippers do win this series without Kawhi, it should not surprise you at this point because they're that resilient and they've had this next man up mentality all season long. And Chris Paul seems to be settling. Like, dude, I'm sure COVID may have affected you. Those 2 games may have gotten you out of your rhythm, but you got to start showing up now. Even without COVID though, Chris Paul doesn't have the burst in him that he used to have, and regardless of what anyone's been saying, I've thought, yes, Chris Paul raised the floor for this team, but Devin Booker is still the star of this team. And okay, except against the Nuggets, like, okay, Chris Paul was arguably the better player in that series, but for most of the season, I would say that Devin Booker was the better player. And Game 4, yes, the refs should have reviewed the play towards the end, but also, sorry Clipper fans, you can't blame the refs when you shoot 66% from the free throw line and only 16% from 3 and still continue to chuck. You didn't know when to stop shooting the 3. The Suns didn't play a great game either, but they at least made their free throws and out rebounded the Clippers. But hey, you won Game 5 on the road. You're back home for Game 6. You should be pumped and you should hold your heads high regardless of what the outcome of Game 6 is. The Suns though, you better play with that chip on your shoulder or else you're going to be seeing Game 7 and then pressure's on you even on your home floor. Because the Clippers are going to be the ones that have the momentum. Alright, that's it for now. Once again, no more live streams because of the noise complaint. Again, I sincerely apologize to those who actually enjoy my live stream. But you know, the low attendance has also been another reason for me to stop. But hope you enjoyed this video. Yes, it was a banger, but just had to come at you with some content. So again, please remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow me on social media. Links in the description. And I'm not sure what my upload schedule is going to be like for the next few days because I got the JLPT, a Japanese language test, coming up, and I got to study hard for that. And also, again, my vaccination in a couple days, so I'm sure I'm not going to be uploading that day. But hey, hope to see you guys soon. Alright, yeah, and at least if you follow me on social media, you'll get more of my immediate reactions where I don't have to spend hours editing. So, okay, that's it for now. See you next time. Peace.